Solutions to the end of year exams for the year 2022 for year 2. In the first sum, we have simultaneous equations. We cannot solve simultaneous equations in the fractional form. We need to convert it to the linear form. In equation 2, the denominators are 5 and 6. Therefore, we multiply equation 2 by 30. This gives us 12x minus 5y equals 105. And we call this equation 3. Now we have a 12x in the equation, so we need a 12x from the other equation as well. To do that, we multiply the first equation by 24. And this gives us a 12x minus 8y equals 96. Once we have a common term, that is 12x, then we can remove it. To remove it, we take equation 3 minus equation 4. And this gives us 3y equals to 9. That is, y is 3. So now we have to find out what is x by substituting y equals to 3 into the equation. It is actually good to substitute into the original equation. So we will substitute into 1. That is, y is 3, so we have x over 2. Y is 3, so it's 3 over 3, which is 1, equals to 4. And this works out to be x is 5 times 2, 10. Let us now look at the next sum. This is a sum on inequality. We know that it's inequality because of the word less than. Here we have $10 and $5 notes in a wallet. There are 23 altogether. So 23 notes altogether, consisting of $10 and $5. Okay. Now x is the number of $5. So we have x $5. So therefore we have 23 minus x $10. Now to get the total amount, we take the quantity times the dollar, which is 23 minus x times 10 plus 5x. This gives you the total sum of money, which must be less than. Less than is the symbol 170. Now we are ready to solve the equation. Solving an inequality is similar to solving an equation. So now we have to multiply this out. We have 230 minus 10x plus 5x is less than 170. And that gives us minus 5x is less than negative 60. Now we have to divide away negative 5. Inequalities, if we divide or multiply by a negative number, we need to reverse the sign. So we need to reverse the sign when we divide by negative 5. Divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, that will be 12. And we want the least number of $5 notes. Now, it has to be more than 12. So the least number we can go is 13. So x is 13. The next sum is on algebra. By looking at the sum, what is familiar to us is x plus y, x times y, x minus y, which actually tells us about this formula: a squared minus b squared is a minus b times a plus b. And that is how we solve this, by writing this as taking out the common factor. We have 1/5 x squared minus y squared, and that gives us x minus y times x plus y, which we are given the values, so we substitute in. X plus y is 6.5, x minus y is 8, so it's 1/5 times 8 times 6.5, and that works out to be 10.4. Right, now we have to do expansion of a binomial by a trinomial. To do that, we need to first take x and multiply x into every term in the second bracket. So x squared times x will be x cubed. Minus 2x times x will be minus 2x squared. And 6 times x is 6x. Next, we take 5 and multiply every term in the second bracket by 5. So x squared times 5 is 5x squared. And that is minus 10x and plus 30. Then we collect the like terms and put it in the order of the power. X cubed plus, we have negative 2x squared plus 5x squared is 3x squared, and 6x minus 10x is minus 4x, and finally plus 30. Here we have a perfect square. For a perfect square, when we multiply, we have 7x times 7x will be 49x squared. The middle term, we multiply across, minus 21x minus 21x altogether, minus 42x. And the last term, minus 3 times minus 3, plus 9. Right, let us move on to the next sum. Here we have factorization of common factors. So a and x are common, so we take it out. Once we have taken out ax, what is left is y, and we have taken out ax here. 6 is left, a is taken out, 1x is taken out, so 6x is left. Now when we want to factorize, the first thing we look out for are common factors. So here we can see that there is a factor of 2, so we bring out the 2 first. Now once we bring out the 2, we can see that what we have is now a difference of 2 squared. 1 is always a square, so we have 9x squared minus 1 squared. And for this, when we have a squared minus b squared, the result when we factorize is always 1 plus and 1 minus. Okay, so here we have 3x times 3x minus plus 1 minus 1. The next factorization is factorization by grouping. We know that it's a factorization by grouping because there are 4 terms. So there are 2 groups which have common factors. The first group, the common factor is x. Now once we have taken out the common factor x, whatever is in the bracket is 2a minus b. Now the other 2 terms should also have the same factor of 2a minus b. That means what we take out is, when we take out negative 3, and there is a common y as well. So now we have a common factor in brackets 2a minus b. So let us take it out. Common factor, and what is left is x minus 3y. More factorization here. This is a factorization of a trinomial. For a factorization of trinomial, we make use of the first term and the last term. But before that, if the x squared term is negative, we need to factorize it out. Now the factors of 6x squared is 2x times 3x. And the factors of 3 or negative 3 is 1 times negative 3. Now I cannot put the 3 here because that will mean that there is a common factor of 3 throughout, but there is no common factor of 3 throughout. So it has to be a 1 here and a 3 on this side. And now we check the middle term, which is negative. So we have a positive 9x minus 2x to give us positive 7x. And that completes our factorization. Now if you look at the first part A, and the sum here, you notice that x is now replaced by 2y minus 1. Therefore, the solution, which is minus three x minus 1. Remember that we are replacing the x so we are replacing the x by 2y minus 1. So in the answer, the x is also replaced by 2y minus 1. So the x is replaced by 2y minus 1. We need to simplify this to give us six y minus 3 or 6y minus 4. And the other side we have 4y plus 1. Now there is still a common factor here. We need to take it out. So we have minus 2 bracket 3y minus 2 4y plus 1. Let us now move on to the next page. Simplifying algebraic fractions. We simplify algebraic fractions by factorization. The numerator has already been factorized for us, right? It is 6a minus 6b, and it's a square, so there are two of it. Now, the denominator is a difference of two squares, but there's a common factor of 6. So now we have to take out the common factor. We take out the 6 here, and then we take out another 6. So we have actually taken out 36. Then what we have left is a minus b times a minus b. And difference of two squares is a minus b times a plus b. So this is cancelled out and this cancelled out. So we're left with 6a minus b over a plus b. In the second part, we have subtracting the algebraic fractions. To subtract fractions, we need a common denominator. As we can see here, the denominators are almost the same, except that they are not in the right order. So the first thing to do is to make it in the right order, which is m minus 9n. So to do that, we change the sign from minus to plus, and then we switch the terms to m minus 9n. Now what we are short of is an m minus 9n, a factor of that. So we need to multiply by m minus 9n. Sorry. Okay, so now the denominator is m minus 9n squared. And the numerator is 6 plus m minus 9n. We have a quadratic equation here, but there is an unknown k. We are given that x equals to minus 4 over 5 is a solution. When something is a solution, it means that it can be substituted into the equation. Since it is a solution, it satisfies the equation, so we can substitute it in. So we substitute negative 4/5, and once we have done that, we only have k to find. Okay. So simplifying this, right, we should have 64 minus 4k minus 60 equals to 0, and that works out to be k is 1. Now we know the value of k, then we should know the equation, or the equation is now 20 k x squared minus plus k is 1, so plus x minus 12 equals to 0. Now remember that just now we are given that the solution is x equals to negative 4. The one solution is x is negative 4 over 5. If x is equal to negative 4 over 5, then the factor which gives this solution is 5x plus 4. What we do is multiply by 5 and then so this is one of the solution, 5x plus 4. Therefore, we will know the other factor. To get a 20x is 5x times 4x. And to get a negative 12, this has to be a negative 3. Therefore, the other solution is 4x minus 3 equals to 0, which gives us x equals to 3/4. That is the other solution. The first solution is this, which gives us this factor. The next sum is basically on coordinates. We need to find the coordinates of R. To find the coordinates of R, we need to find out what are the other coordinates. We first considered the length of the rectangle. Now the length of the rectangle, the y value here is 26. That means this 26. And here is 2, the y value. Okay, the x value here is 3. And the x value here is 34. So if we know the length of this rectangle, which is 26 minus 2, so the length is actually 24. Now, so if this is 24, then this is also 24. So if from here to here is 34, then this length here will be 34. Okay, so that is the width. The width will be 34 minus 3, because it's 3, and minus 24. And that gives us 7. Okay, so now we know this is 7. Therefore, this has to be n. Right, so now we know the coordinates. The width here is 10 minus 3, which is 7. So this is 7. So now 26 minus 7 will give you the coordinates here. Right, the y coordinate of R is the y coordinate of R. The y coordinate of R is 26 minus 7. That is 19. And the x coordinate of R so the x coordinate of R is 3 plus 7, right? 3 plus 7. This is 7. 3 plus 7, which is 10. Therefore, R is x coordinate 10 and y coordinate 19. Let's now move on to the next sum, which is to make the subject of the formula. Now, when we have an equation that has a fraction like this, the first thing to do is to cross multiply. We can treat h as h over 1, so we cross multiply. Cross multiply means multiplying diagonally, so we have this multiply this diagonal, we have h multiplied by h minus k squared, and the other diagonal will give us 2k squared. Now we want to make k the subject of the formula, so all the k terms must be brought together. But this k term is in the brackets, so the first thing to do is to open up the brackets. So now we need to bring all the k terms together. So we have h squared equals 2k squared plus hk squared. So now k squared is common, factorize it out. And now we want k to be alone, so we divide by h squared over 2 plus k, 2 plus h. So we want k, so we take the square root, so our subject must be on the left. And when we take the square root, there are two possible answers, 1 plus and 1 minus. The next sum is on proportion, direct proportion. Y is directly proportional to the square root of 2x plus 1. We interpret this by saying y equals to constant multiplied by the square root of 2x plus 1. And y and k is a constant. Alright, now we have to proceed to find k in order to get the equation. So we are given two values when x is 12, y is 1. So we substitute in y is 1, x is 12, so 12 times 2 is 24, 24 plus 1 is 25. Okay, so now that the square root of 25 is 5, so k is 1/5. So now the equation is y equals k, which is 1/5. The equation must have the known value of k. Move on to the next sum. This is on scale and maps. We are given that 4 cm square represents an area of 1 km square. Then we have to find in cm square how much is 25 km square. Since 1 km square is represented by 4 cm squared. Therefore 25 km square is represented by 25 km squared times 25. That gives us 100 cm squared. And now we have to find the actual distance in kilometers, represented by 5.5 cm. So now we have to find from here, we have first 4 cm square represent 1 km squared. This is the area scale, but what we want to find is the distance. Therefore, we need the distance scale. So we need to take the square root. So take the square root here. We have 2 cm represent square root of 1 is still 1. Now, so 1 cm square represent 0.5. So this is 5.5 cm square will represent 0.5 times 5.5. Which is 2.75. km. Alright, the last part we need to write the scale in the form of a ratio. Now a ratio has no units, so therefore in order to have no units, we must first make them to have the same units. So we have the scale here, which is 2 cm represent 1 km. And we need to make it the same units. That is 1 cm is 0.5 km, and we need to make it to cm. Multiplying by 100,000, we have 50,000 cm. And once we have the same unit, then we drop it, and this is where we get the scale in the ratio 1:50,000. The next sum is on similar triangles. And here is talking about a scale factor. To find a scale factor, first we have to think of this as two triangles, a smaller one and a bigger one. Okay, the smaller one is 10 and the bigger corresponding side is 25. Right, so the value of k, which is the scale factor of the smaller triangle, because it's mapped into the smaller triangle with a factor of k. So they want the scale factor of the smaller triangle, which is taking the smaller side over the larger side. That gives us 2/5. Now we want to find DE, and DE is the length of the smaller triangle, and the length of the bigger triangle is 40. So DE, which is the small side over the bigger side, must be equal to the scale factor. The scale factor is small triangle over big triangle, so DE over 40 is also 2/5. Okay, that gives us DE is 16. And don't forget to write the units. Now we have a sum on volume, and what we need to find is the volume of another cone B, and this cone B has the same height as cone A, but the radius is now double. So this is how cone B look like, and this is 2r. It has the same height. Now the volume of the first one is 90. That is, the volume of A is 1/3 base area times height. Base area is pi r squared times the height, which is h. And this equals to 90. Now the volume of cone B is again 1/3 base area, but the base area, the radius is now 2r. Right, so when we work it out and we take out the 4, we have 4 multiplied by 1/3 pi r square height, which is actually the area, the volume of cone A. So the volume of cone B is therefore 4 times, which is 360. The last sum is on sequence, and sequence is not tested in this year's exam, right? But I think it's alright to do the sum. Basically, sequence, you need to find out what is the pattern, and if you see the pattern, line 4, then this is 1/4 minus 1/5, and 4 times 5 is 20. So therefore the fifth line is 1/5 minus 1/6, and this is 1/30. And therefore, if it is 1/n, then this is n plus 1. And this is 1/n times n plus 1. So following this pattern here, a number like this can be splitted up into two numbers which are equal, and that will be 1/156 minus 1/157. That means actually if you take the square root of the nearest number, that is 25,000, then you have roughly a rough guess of this number. So now, in order to add up all the sum, right, it adds up to this number here, and we know that all these numbers can be rewritten in this form. Therefore, the total is actually 1 minus 1 over 157, which is actually 156 over 157. And that completes paper 1. Now let's move on to paper 2. Paper 2 consists of short, or rather questions which are a bit longer and lesser sums. There are only about 6, I think, 6 sums. The first one is on drawing up a stem and leaf. To draw the stem and leaf, we must first know the range. The range, right, it starts off from the smallest number is 2, and they are all 2 digits number, so the first stem is actually a 0 followed by a 2. Now this is class A, so 2 will be on this side. Okay, and then 0, 6, which is class A, 0, 6. So we need a key. So the key to class A is actually 2 stroke, means 0, 2. Right, and for B, okay, B 39, okay, that is 3. So now the stem is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So then 39, right, 3/9 means 39. If you did not put the key, then you will be marked wrong. Now you will need to keep track of the numbers that you have transferred, right? So you need to keep a systematic arrangement. Right, so if you were to do it correctly, we have a 0, 3, right, and then we have 4, 6, 7, 8, and this one is 0, 0, 1, 3, 4. And on this side, there's a 4, 0 here, right? There's 4, 0. And it must be in order, and it must be properly aligned. So on this side we have 1, 3, 4, 5, and here we have 0, 1, 1, 2, 5, and 3 don't have anything, then 4, 0, 4, 0. Right? Now the next question say the school has decided not to use the mean marks to compare, and what is the reason? Now because there are extreme values, or what we call outliers, right? So the reason is mean score is not used, because of outliers or extreme values. Alright, the next sum is on simplifying algebraic fraction. The thing about the algebraic fraction is that usually both fractions have the same factor. So if there's x minus 1 here, likely there is a x minus 1 on this side. Remember that when we add or subtract fractions, we need the same denominator. So we could have actually guessed that when we factorize, one of the factor will be similar to the first one. Once we know that, then it's quite easy to find the second one, x times x squared, and this is to get a plus 2, minus 1 times minus 2. Right, so now we need to make the same denominator. So there is a short of x minus 2 here. So we need to multiply by x minus 2 over x minus 2. So that the denominator is the same. Once the denominator is the same, then we can put it under a single denominator. So we put it under a single denominator. And the numerator is x minus 2 times x plus 1 plus 1. Okay, we need to expand this out and simplify further. Okay, so when we expand and simplify, our final answer will be x squared minus x minus 1 over x minus 1 x minus 2. The denominator must be left in factorized form. Let us now move on to the next sum. We have to use the result to solve this equation. So our previous result is x squared minus x minus 1 over x minus 1 and x minus 2 equals to 1. So once again, we have a fraction in an equation, so we need to cross multiply. So when we cross multiply, then we have x squared minus x minus 1 equal to, expand this out, x squared minus 3x plus 2. Okay, so we simplify and we find that x is 1.5. Alright, let's move on to the next sum. This is a sum on probability. Here we have 50 balls. It's good to draw a diagram. So we have 50 balls, and then we have the green balls, and we have white balls, and we have blue balls. And we are given that there are 16 green and x white. So the rest are blue. That means the blue is 50 minus 16 minus x. So 50 minus 16 is 14. 50 minus 16 is 34. minus x. Right, there is the number of blue balls. Okay, so the number of blue balls is actually 34 minus x. Alright, so therefore 34 minus x, the number of blue balls out of the total number of balls is given as 3 over 10, right, the probability. So therefore the number of blue balls is just 310 times 50, which is 15. Now, oh yes, the first part is probability of finding a green ball is 16 out of 50, which is 8 over 25. And we want to find the probability of taking out black ball. There is no black ball, so the probability is 0. Now they say that white balls, number of is y, so that means now we have added a y number of white balls. So therefore, yeah, the number of white balls is 12, because the number of white balls is actually x, and from the second part we know that 34 minus x, which is the number of blue balls, over 50 is equals to 310, and that actually gives us x is 19. So x is 19, therefore we have 19 and plus the y balls, and the total number of balls is now added by y, and the number of blue balls. Okay, now this one is 31 white balls over a total of 50 plus y, and that gives us y is 12. Right? The next sum is on statistics, and we have a table here with the frequency. There's an unknown frequency x. Write down the minimum value of x such that 4 is the modal score. So if 4 is the mode, then the frequency here must be the highest. So therefore, the lowest value of this number must be greater than 23. Right, so it is 24. Right, so x must be 24. The mean score is 3.56. Now how do we get the mean? We get the mean by adding the total for each score. The total for the first part is 1 times 12, which is 12, plus 23 times 2 is 46. So we total up all the scores, 5 times 13 is 65. And the last one is 120. Okay, so now we have total up all the scores over the total frequency. So the total frequency is adding all these numbers in the frequency, which gives us 83 plus x. So total score over total frequency, that will give us 3.56, which is the mean. Okay, so we cross multiply, we have 288 plus 4x equals to 295.48 plus 3.56x. Okay, solving for x, we have x is 17. Alright, it should be a nice number since it is the number. We cannot have half a number, right? So it should be a whole number. And the maximum value of x if 3 is the median score. Now, there are 12 ones. And 23 twos. And there are 15 threes. Followed by certain number of 4, which we don't know. And then we have 13 fives. And 26. So if 3 is the median, if we have the first 3, then we have a smaller value for x. So to get a larger value of x, we need to take the last 3. So if we take the last 3, there will be 14 trees left, right? And 14 trees left plus 23 plus 12. And that means that this must be equal to whatever is on this side, because if this 3 is the median, there will be equal number of scores on both sides. So if this side has this number of scores, then it must be equal to the sum of the scores x plus 13 plus 20. So that gives us x is 16. And that's the largest value of x. Alright, now part D, explain why 2 cannot be the median. Now if 2 is the median, right, what will happen is, if 2 is the median, then the lower half of the data will be 34, right? If 2 is the median, then we have 1, 12, 1. We have 2, and if 2 is the median, and there are 23 2's here, so if this is the median, then there will be 34 scores here. Now if there's 34 scores here, then on the other side we have 48 plus x scores. So that can never work, because if 2 is this, then there will be 22 tools left, giving a total of 34. And if they are supposed to be balanced, then 34 will be equal to 48 plus x, right? So since x must be positive, because we cannot have a negative count, right? So since x is greater than 0, therefore 2 cannot be the median. Again, we have a sum on the volume and surface area. We have a hemisphere of diameter, so it's good to draw a diagram. Hemisphere, the diameter is 32. Find the volume of the hemisphere, giving your answer in pi. So hemisphere, the full sphere, the volume of a full sphere is 4 over 3 pi r cubed. So half a sphere is half of that. That means it is 2/3 pi r cubed. And the radius is 16. Okay, this works out to be 8192 pi over 3 cm cubed. Alright, then the volume of the pyramid. Okay, now this is made into a pyramid, right? And it's a square pyramid. So let's say that the side is x, and they say that the height is double that, so the height here is 2x. So the volume of the pyramid is actually 1/3 area of base, which is x squared, times the height, and that gives us 2 over 3 x cubed. Now this is the volume of the pyramid. Now since this has to be equal to the value here, which is when we work this out, it is 8578.642. Right, then we can find the value of x, and the value of x is a decimal number, but then they want the value of x to be an integer. Is the value of x is actually 23.433. So since they want it to be an integer, it has to be at least 23 cm, nearest integer. So now the volume of the pyramid using this value will be 1/3, or rather 2/3 times x, right? The volume of the pyramid, 2/3 x cubed. So it's 2/3 x cubed is 23 cubed. And this gives us a horrible value of 811.33. So therefore, the unused material, because it's been rounded to a whole number, so it's smaller. So therefore, the unused one will be the actual volume, 642, minus away the reduced volume, and that gives you 467 cm cube. That is to 3 SF. Right, now let us move on to this sum. This is on trigo. So in trigo, we are basically looking out for right angled triangles. And if we want to find the length, let's say the length of AB, whenever we want to find a length, we must have one side and one angle known in a right angle triangle, which is this triangle here. So it's possible to find AB. So AB over 10, AB is the opposite side. So opposite over hypotenuse is a sine 32. And that gives us AB, which is 52992, which is approximately 5.30 cm to 3 significant figure. Alright, now next we have to find an angle. We have to find this angle. Now to find an angle, we need two sides. So since we have already found AB, so we can use AB and 19.2, which is again sine. Alright, so the sine of this angle, sine of angle ADB now we have to use the 5 significant figure, AB, which is 5.2992 over 19.2, and that gives us angle ADB, which is 16.0. So for angles, it has to be given to one decimal place. For numbers, is 3 significant figure. And we must always remember to use 5 significant figure when we calculate any value. Alright, so the now we want to find the length of CD. So to find the length of CD, we need to find the whole length here. Now we can use Pythagoras theorem to find BD, and then we need to use to find this length here. Alright, so we have Pythagoras theorem, BD square equals to 19.2 square minus AB square. Remember to use 5 significant figure. So BD is 18.454. And we also have to find BC, right? So BC, also we know this length, so BC square is actually 10 square minus AB square, or 5.292 square. Right, so once we have found that, then the length of CD is actually 18 BD minus BC, which gives us 9.97 cm. Alright, to 3 significant figure. Then we can find the area of the triangle, which is half base times height. The base BD we found is 18 base times the height, which is, the height is 5.2992, 5 significant figure. Alright, and the answer is reduced to 3 significant figure. Right, so now we have to find the shortest distance. The shortest distance from B to AD is the perpendicular distance. Right, so we have to find this perpendicular distance. Now to find the perpendicular distance, let's say we call it D. We use the area of the triangle. We have already got the area of the triangle here already. So half base times height. If we use this as the base, okay, so half base times height is 19.2 times the height D is equal to the area of the triangle, which we found in the part D. And the area of the triangle, the long form, is 48.896. Remember to use 5 significant figure. So from here we can find this distance is 5.09. That is to 3 significant figure. Alright. Okay, next sum. Okay, this sum here is number 7. And they say that ABCD is a right angle triangle, and here they say that it is an isosceles triangle. This is an important fact. So if this is a triangle and if AB is the hypotenuse, right? If AB is hypotenuse, then BC will be equal to AC, right? So if AB is the hypotenuse 20, but then if this one is 20, if AB is 20, or is one of the side, then BC will be the hypotenuse. Then these two lengths will be equal. Okay, so therefore, if AB is the hypotenuse, then the possible length of BC, so these two will be equal, so we have 2 BC square, add together will be 20 square. That will give us BC is 14.1. And if AB is one of the sides, then BC square will be equal to 20 square plus 20 square. And BC will be 28.3 cm. So now in the last sum we have a graph, quadratic graph, and what we need to do first is to find out the numbers, unknown numbers P and Q. We use the formula and substitute the value of x to find out. So when x is minus 2, then we substitute in the equation, and y will be, or in this case y is p, so p will be 10. So similarly, we substitute for x, right, when, q, when x is 2, we substitute, when x is 2, then q will be 2. Right, now the next thing we need to do is to find out from the graph. So we need the graph. Part 2, we need to, part B, we need to draw the graph. Okay, so we have already drawn the graph. So from the graph, we have to read the values. When y is 3, right? When y is 3, we need to draw the line y is 3, which is this line here on the graph, and then read off the x value. Okay, so if you read correctly, there are two x values. One of them is x is negative 0.4, and the other value x is 2.4. Right, that is here, negative 0.4 and 2.4. The least value of y, okay, the least value of y is the lowest point, the lowest value of y, and this is 1. This value, and this value is when x is 1. Right, so when x is 1, we have the least value of y. The equation of the line of symmetry. Okay, the equation of the line of symmetry, here we can see on the graph the line of symmetry, which divides the graph into two equal parts. It passes through x is 1, and the equation is x is 1. And we are asked to explain, okay, how we get that line of symmetry. It can be obtained by drawing a vertical line through the minimum point. Okay, the equation can also be found by drawing a vertical line through the midpoint of 2 points in a straight line. Okay, any 2 points in a straight line, if we draw a vertical line dividing that line into 2 equal halves, we will also get the same answer. And that completes the discussion for the 202 paper.